David Cameron has today backed calls for what he calls a sustainable ceasefire in Gaza, adding to the growing international pressure on Israel. Let's talk to our military analyst, Sean Bell. Good to see you.
Morning.
David Cameron, very careful with his language, isn't he? Talking about this sustainable ceasefire. What would that mean?
Well, Nick, the word ceasefire traditionally means a pause in the conflict to allow for peace negotiations to start, unlike these operational pauses that happened before. So it's a transition towards peace, and that's why it's clear. If we look at both sides, though, Hamas, on the 7th of October, when they'd committed their heinous acts, they knew they were no match militarily for the Israelis, but they were cleared to break the status quo, that 50% unemployment, quality of living in Gaza that's been going downhill fast, an open prison. So their objective almost certainly was to survive with hostages and attract the international community to help them out. So if there was some sort of ceasefire, that would be a positive outcome for Hamas. Whereas if you look from Israel's perspective, after the 7th of October, they said, we're going to solve the Hamas problem, we're going to get our hostages back. If you have a ceasefire today, neither of those things have actually been achieved. So the real question, I think, really is that a ceasefire won't suit Israel at all. It might suit Hamas, but Israel will probably therefore have to stay in Gaza. They will be very vulnerable whilst they're in there in any form of ceasefire. Aid will flow and the hostage negotiations will continue, but it will be an incredible, fragile peace if Israel is not on side with the process.
So what then would be a satisfactory outcome for Israel?
What's fascinating about this is Israel, of course, has a functioning economy. It's business as usual back at home. But 80 years of security concerns, which are quite valid security concerns that they have as a state, how can they be achieved? And one of the challenges is how to convince Israel's political leadership that there is an alternative to warfare and the violence. Now, part of that depends. So there's a lot of talk now about two-state solution or one-state solution. Is that Israel's objective because of a land grab, or is it actually simply to try and find a solution to their security concerns? And I think there's where the US would play a key role, because there's lots of ways of providing security guarantees without actually taking over land.
Yeah, the US still wanting this two-state solution. What would happen to Gaza if Israeli troops do withdraw?
Part of the challenge, I think, for the Palestinians is working out what good looks like for them. Gaza, the economy, unlike Israel, the Gaza economy is going to be completely destroyed. The infrastructure has been damaged, water supplies are all a humanitarian nightmare, and the governance is also in pieces as well. But for decades, Gaza's seen this sort of spiral of despair building up, and they need to break that cycle, create hope. Now, the conflict has clearly not been the solution, and if you keep doing what you always did, you get what you always got. 80 years on, when are we going to learn that the military isn't the right answer? Now, what is different? It's 80 years ago when the Israeli state was formed, the Arab neighbours didn't want it there. If you look forward now, the Arab nations around it have actually come to accommodate Israel, apart from Iran that's still funding Hezbollah, Hamas and whatever. So the solution, I'm not going to sit here and try and propose one. There's smarter minds than I have not managed to achieve that. But the ingredients, undoubtedly, a part of it's around the economy. It's creating hope for the Gazans, for the Palestinians, and a degree of security. The international role there, finance will be huge. Well, the Arab world could be able to provide that. In terms of governance, it's the Palestinians, and in terms of security, United Nations. But ultimately, as a former military guy, there isn't a military solution to this. It's going to be a political solution. It's time for the political leadership to step up, not just nationally, but internationally, to find a way to the peaceful solution.